Tonight, on the eve of April 12th, I'm going to talk about a movie that I don't particularly like on the internet, and you're more than welcome to click off of this video. I thought I'd start off nice and simple with a straight thought that's been bothering me for a very long time. I've had to debate this notion in my mind when I'm just trying to have a shower. This memory that never quite reached a conclusion. An absolute brain dump. Most of us are aware of the film Ocean's 11, but I more so recall the sequel, Ocean's 12. I saw this in early 2005 as a young lad, and one specific part has always bothered me. Why is Julia Roberts' character allowed to be both Tess Ocean and herself? This gimmick is done to solve an unexpected problem with a heist. It even has a professional thief jargon name, the Looky Loo. Okay, here's the setup. We have this large cast of crime caper characters travelling across various locations in Europe to steal a very high item of value to settle a multi-million-dollar debt. After a failed break-in attempt in the first half, they subsequently arrive in Rome in the latter half of the film, where they plan to make off with a Fabergé egg. They case the joint, build a miniature of the art museum, go through the steps of how they'll be working in tandem to cause a distraction and do their thievery thing. Look at them all, being clever. This is going to be so sleek and swish. They even have a hologram of the egg. Like I said, swish! Unfortunately, on the morning of the heist, almost everyone is arrested due to a very mean rival thief ratting them out. The remaining members of the crew go through their options and list off all the potential solutions. But they're understaffed. Until they realise they can pull a very specific trick off. So they call in the spouse of one of their buddies. They convince Julia Roberts' character to play herself and show up at the museum. They'll never suspect a thing. I guess the idea is that because she's a super famous superstar, she can get close to the dumb plot device without too much fuss. They'll likely close the museum so that she can have some privacy. An actor would never misbehave. She's great for publicity too, it's all reasonable. Before they even say the name Julia Roberts, they keep teasing it out, really leaning into the wink nudge of this whole situation, making sure she gets the accent right. I clearly remember watching it and thinking, oh no, they're not actually gonna do what I think they're gonna do. They do. The most miserable part to this whole bit is that the scam doesn't even work. And there was no real point to this scene, except that Julia Roberts hasn't been around since the first 5 minutes of the film, and they need her to do something. All her character Tess has to offer is that she looks like someone else. Just top-notch stuff. They still get busted, and now everybody's arrested. And so ends the second act of the story, essentially. The rest of the film goes on and pretends like it never really happened. It was all ludicrous. Like, if you think about it, she doesn't even look like her. And we need to remember, this is the sequel. In the previous film, Ocean's 11, nobody ever points out the resemblance between Las Vegas resident art curator Tess Ocean and the A-list Hollywood acting professional Julia Roberts. This is an ensemble cast with a lot of big-name actors, like our buddy George as the leader Danny Ocean. There's Brad as his right-hand man, Rusty Ryan. Please welcome Catherine as Detective Isabel Lahiri. Can't forget Matt as Linus Caldwell, the list goes on. How come they aren't confused with their famous real-life counterparts? Why doesn't Linus just pretend to be Matt Damon? This is the paradox that genuinely bothers me. Imagine, if you will, you're in the middle of watching that show Wednesday, some supporting character just stops everything and goes, I'm sorry Morticia, you look just like Catherine Zeta-Jones if she was into the tall mommy goth subculture. It feels like an interruption to do a really bewildering name drop. And I'm the kind of person who enjoys trivia and tropes in media. I like it when it gets meta, but this whole bit doesn't feel like any kind of clever fourth wall break. Rather, it's just them peeing against it. This awful rancid streak with an off-putting aroma. In more colloquial terms, they're taking the piss. Okay, think of it this way. Yeah, look, I'm only getting worse. Here's another big-budget, multi-movie franchise that's more recent. Imagine, if you will, this happened in one of the Marvel's Avengers films, between Ant-Man and Thanos. Since that character Scott Lang doesn't appear in Infinity War, when we get to the final battle in the follow-up Endgame, the big bad Thanos sees Scott with his Ant-Man mask off and goes, hold up, Paul Rudd? You're that really likeable guy in the last few seasons of Friends. I loved you in Clueless. Now that's a really cool way Ant-Man could have defeated Thanos. No need for that theory where he's shrinking down, jumping up his ass and then resizing. By the way, Don Cheadle is in both of these cinematic universes. Coincidence? No, not at all. He's just a solid actor who's easy to deal with. Now one thing I want to at least praise is that this ridiculous scenario doesn't just manifest itself fully formed. Earlier in the film, there are these throwaway lines of dialogue where Linus tries to say to Rusty how Tess is a dead ringer for someone else. They never say who she looks like though, so you just don't think about it. It's technically a planned and payoff in terms of storytelling, just a very unrewarding one. Oh, and there's a bit near the end where the mean rival thief avoids all the laser beams in style. This was a recurring concept in media around this time, and it's also in Resident Evil 4, and anything that reminds me of that game is always a win. I continue to attend social events and get on with my life, but I'm not really there. This childhood experience has affected my adult world. I blame my third life crisis on Ocean's 12. Still, it perplexes me. Another gag in this sequence is that Tess ends up being handed a phone, and on the other side is the real, in-universe Julia Roberts. Isn't this all so funny? I'm having a great time. Okay, another one. Julia Roberts is pregnant according to the Hollywood gossip tabloids, and because in our reality she actually was 8 months pregnant with twins in 2004, they have to match her appearance. You know, for added hijinks. This, by the way, is called the bundle of joy in thief terminology. Bruce Willis is there as himself also. We all love a good cameo. Tess is clearly in awe of him and gets the giggles. It's all just a big laugh. Enjoy your popcorn. She fakes passing out as part of the distraction so the others can do the old switcheroo with the stupid egg McGuffin. When we watch a film, I know we're meant to suspend our belief and just go with it, but I still can't wrap my head around this fictional attempt at a non-fictional character. Technically this isn't a cameo, as Tess isn't playing Julia. It's Julia playing Tess, playing Julia. I think cameos are fun. I enjoy when actors play fictionalized versions of themselves. In the Harold and Kumar cinematic universe, Neil Patrick Harris plays Neil Patrick Harris. When it's good, it's good. I don't really mind. But then I remember Ocean's 12, and you know what? I did mind. I'm all for movie logic pushing back and being creative, but it's gotta work within the preconceived rules. This Ocean's heist I keep whinging on about, it just feels like they wrote themselves into a corner and they just decided, well sure, you know, isn't it great that you're watching up to this point? The film's 2/3 of the way through, and we don't think you'll mind if we do this to solve a problem that we created earlier. But why? Why, George Nolfi? Why did you think this would be okay? And aesthetically, this is such a smug, obnoxious vibe. It thinks it's so complex and clever. Never once does it come across as sincere or endearing. It does use a lot of interesting camera zooms though. I know we all dunk on more contemporary heist films like the Now You See Me series with the troublesome magicians, but at least we as a society have gotten that out of our system. I don't think Ocean's 12 is very good. It's the weakest one of this specific Ocean's trilogy. It has a very bad scene that has clearly upset me. I remember my younger self leaving the cinema and thinking, you can't do that. That's not fair. Okay, one more thing. Aside from the appearances like Bruce, Topher Grace is in this film as well. He's a bit off looking and he's clearly meant to be unlikable with the quick appearance he makes. But they call him Topher. He's clearly meant to be the actor. Yet now I'm thinking, is there another fella out there who looks exactly like Topher, but he's a completely irrelevant stranger? What is this conundrum? Looking through an earlier draft of the script, when it had been tweaked from a different screenplay called Honor Among Thieves, the whole Julia Roberts bit is also there. I had always assumed this had been improvised due to the loose filmmaking style of director Steven Soderbergh, but I'm afraid not. This has always been part of the plan. The plan to hurt me. I'm just a sad worm of a man now. Although it is interesting that Topher Grace was meant to be the unexpected actor that Tess gets thrown off by, but I guess he got sidelined when Bruce stepped up. Did you know he was in the running to play Danny Ocean when they were casting the previous film? How whimsical. I know in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't really matter, and you're probably just watching this on your phone, sitting on the toilet. The clock has just struck midnight, and I can't find the DVD player remote. I think I'm trapped in the meta now. This isn't nice and simple anymore, is it? I appreciate that the IMDb exists for any double checking with my various facts. If I got something wrong, leave a comment. I will disagree with you, even if you're right, just to boost the engagement and trick the algorithm. More importantly, I consulted the unofficial Oceans Fan Wiki, which is a real website you can visit too. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this sad video essay about a film you probably forgot about. Feel free to follow me online. All the links are in the description. I don't really use social media anymore though. Also, I'm Bryan with a Y, so you gotta spell it wrong anyways. Actually, don't bother following me. Definitely don't subscribe. Instead, follow a recent Twitter account I've set up. It posts a vintage Super Mario toy every day. Okay, I don't know how to end this, so I'll probably just finish this video in the middle of this sentence.